Hey, it's State of State. We got your Nittany Line update. It's a football discussion with Tom and Justin, so kick back and press play.
With former Penn State and NFL defensive back Justin King, I'm Tom Hannafin. This is State of State. Please like, comment, subscribe, rate us, and turn on notifications. Follow us on social media at State of State Pod. Comment on our YouTube channel. And if you haven't done so already, you can become a member of our YouTube channel. For just 99 cents a month, you can get all upcoming episodes of State of State, plus our entire members-only playlist, ad-free, commercial-free. Hit the join button on our homepage or follow the link in the description of this podcast. This podcast is presented by BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. And with baseball in full swing and football season around the corner, BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting. From Major League Baseball to UFC to tennis and NFL futures, BetOnline remains your choice for sports wagering info. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. Head to betonline.ag today and take advantage of their industry-leading VIP program with level-up bonuses and weekly cash boosts. Penn State fans, are you feeling confident that the Nittany Lions can win college football's national championship next season? Lock in your futures bet at betonline.ag today. State of State is presented by BetOnline. The game starts here. State of State is a proud supporter of Blue White Outfitters. Blue White Outfitters was created as a retail shop meant to highlight the confidence, competitiveness, and fearlessness of the elite athletes found throughout the history of Penn State University. Check out their Lockdown U and Lawn Boys merchandise today. All sales from Blue White Outfitters directly benefit Penn State student athletes. Also, official State of State merchandise is available now. Support the show and grab State of State t-shirts, hoodies, hats, and more. Visit www.bluewhiteoutfitters.com today. Hi, everyone, and welcome to State of State. I'm Tom Hannafin. He's Justin King. Happy early 4th of July holiday weekend to those that celebrate, our fans in the United States. For our fans that are outside the United States, thank you just for tuning in. We sincerely appreciate it. Right now, we're taking a look at, within this episode, the goals for 2025, specifically for running back Nick Singleton. Later on this week, we're going to get into some recent quotes from Penn State quarterback Drew Aller and some of his thoughts leading up into the season, his thoughts on returning, what they've been working on in the summer. We're going to talk about Drew Aller a little bit later on this week, but I want to primarily focus on Nick Singleton within this episode. And it's something that, Justin, you and I have talked about in regard to, there's the expectations for 2025, which we covered last week, and a lot of those are external. And the external expectations by a lot of people are Penn State should credibly contend for the national championship. And that's the way that I always like to put it, credibly contend for it, is that they have a legitimate shot at making a run for it. And the interesting thing that you and I have talked about is like, hey, to my knowledge, and if I missed any other quotes, forgive me, but Jim Knowles is the only one who's outright said, I'm here to win a national championship in 2025. Granted, you've put it perfectly. He's been there. He's done that at Ohio State last year. He can say these things. Interesting thing, PennLive.com had a recent interview with Penn State running back Nick Singleton, who has so much ahead of him this season. He was quoted as saying, quote, it took me a minute, I'd say after the game, the Orange Bowl and the loss to Notre Dame. I took a week off. I was talking to my family, seeing what's the best decision for me, and obviously talking to other teammates, talking to Katron Allen in particular. And his decision to come back, he said, quote, it was kind of a really hard decision, but at the same time, I kind of knew everybody was coming back. Their mindset was winning a national championship. And even in high school, my senior year, I always wanted to win a national championship before going to the draft. That's kind of what made my decision to want to come back. So it's not Nick outright saying our goal is to win a national championship in 2025. I want to be clear on that. We're not, mincing words or taking things out of context, but it is him setting a goal for himself and for the team. How do you feel about that? And is that a surprise for you to start hearing that from the players here? We're in July now.
To set a goal for the season?
To set that goal, but then to put it out publicly, considering what we know about James Franklin, historically, he doesn't like to put those big type of goals out there.
I mean, these guys, you say seasoned vets, especially in this day and age of college football. I mean, it's a pair of running backs or a group of guys that have been on the team for 4 years and been serious contributors for 4 years. I think they can stick their chest out a little bit and say exactly why we're here. Because they've probably been questioned like, hey, why didn't you drop in the transfer portal? Why didn't you go to the NFL? So essentially saying like, hey, we got unfinished business to attend to here, and this is what we're trying to do. So I think I like the boldness coming from those guys and understand that there's expectations coming into the season and don't shy away from it. Like stand up to it.
In your experience in charge of LIG Sports Group, players that are in high school, college, even the pros, how many players legitimately care about winning a national championship at high school, college? Like, as it does feel like as the NIL era has gone up, it's like there are unfortunately more people interested in the money than they are in the goal and in the accomplishment.
That's a very good question, man. I think it's a very acquired taste for a player that wants to look for a national championship when they're coming out of high school. They typically come from bigger powerhouse programs. So follow me or track with me. It's interesting because like the big powerhouse programs, a lot of those players, not to say that they're not elite players, but sometimes they get their acclaim from being at a bigger school. And so they're used to winning. And so they put that plan, I want to continue to win. And so there's a value to that when you talk about program guys or being on a part of a program and have a winning culture. But then you start to understand like the internal makeup of or the talent acquisition of, like you say, national championship type college programs and like what they attract to them. And it's an acquired taste of like that individual talent that wants to essentially just compete and win at everything. And I think you get a collective group of guys that are ultra competitive and want the best. And so obviously you talk about the championship being the byproduct and kind of being that carried out in front. And you get a whole bunch of guys that you can coach individually. I think that's like the secret sauce. And I think that's something that like even when you see like the runs of Nick Saban, when you think about the guys that they acquired, yes, they were successful in high school, but they were very, very special individual players that had a acquired taste for competition and dominance, right? And I think so collecting a group of guys that have that mentality is critical, and it's hard to find. And a lot of times it's an individual mindset is what I'm trying to say. A lot of times that you have to get a collective individuals to hone that in, but not necessarily like the team guy that comes out of high school is like, hey, I want to win a national championship. Most of the best players that I've heard, they don't typically say that.
James Franklin has said recently, team success can lead to individual recognition, and that's a normal thing in team sports. And I think the thing that I took away from Nick's comments, because he was like, it wasn't just him, it's the conversation with Katron Allen, his running back teammate, his partner in crime, so to speak. And then you've got Drew Aller, senior, Zane Durant, senior, Denai Dennis Sutton, senior, Zakee Wheatley, senior. Like, this is a very, very veteran group. And it's just not something you see a lot of anymore in college football, college athletics, period. Certain sports, but the major, ones, the big money earning sports like football and men's basketball, like how often do you see completely, senior-led football teams anymore, basketball teams anymore? It's a rarity now with the transfer portal, NIL, the ability to go earlier and earlier to the NFL draft. And I think the thing that's interesting to me is this all speaks to culture. This all speaks to what James Franklin and company have put together, the staff, et cetera, is that if they just wanted mercenaries and they wanted the dudes with stars next to their name, then probably every year you would hear a kid that has a lot of confidence in himself and his teammates probably saying, yeah, we should win the Natty this year. Whereas like you haven't heard that up until now. And again, even Nick didn't blatantly say, my goal is to win a national championship. Our goal is to win a national championship in 2025. He's saying it was part of the reason I came back. It's something he's always wanted to do at the high school and the college level. It's said the right way, but he means it that way. And I just don't see James Franklin and company going to recruit guys who are just, one, looking for a payday, and two, not about the team. And I can't imagine how difficult that has become as time has gone on. What do you think is that kind of, what is that key to success or that secret sauce that this staff has, cultivated in the recruiting process, transfer portal, et cetera, et cetera?
I think authenticity in your values is critical because you have to be able to stick to it and find those players, right? Because you have to be authentic to find the right guys. Because there's more than one way to skin a cat when you're talking about winning a national championship. There's stats and things that you need to hit, but like the personality and the culture in which you're speaking to needs to be authentic to the head coach and how things trickle down to the talent acquisition. So even with, like, clarifying what I was saying a little earlier about high school kids coming out and saying, like, hey, I want to win a national championship. It's like, no, I want to play for a competitive program. And I want to, and it's a lot of what I'm hearing now is like, how are they going to develop me? And then if there's a chance to win a national championship, perfect. Right. But the best players that want to play on Sundays and things of that nature, the special ones do weed themselves out of like, hey, I want to play on Sundays and I want to dominate and play with the best people here in college. And it's a certain makeup that fits that. And we talk about philosophies and building teams. I kind of track it back to when the basketball one and done started to come out, right? And Calipari had his group in Kentucky, and Wisconsin was carrying like those fifth-year seniors, and they were an older group, and they ended up beating them in the national championship. And it comes down to philosophy, especially in this day and age where you can find stability in roster management, a culture, and I will take that over, like you said, the high-paying recruits that come out, even though we've seen that that's helped these past couple of years. But as we put guardrails on this thing and the financial flexibility kind of tightens a little bit, it's culture and coaching that is going to win, right? Money's going to get us in the race, but culture and coaching is going to separate the elite programs from the good programs.
And granted, like, I'll be the first person to say Drew Aller and Nick Singleton, they had the stars attached to their name, but at the same time, like, if they didn't fit the culture, we probably wouldn't see them in a Penn State uniform.
Yep. I would agree. Penn State's one of those unique places where they can pick players that fit within their culture, right? Especially where they're at now. I think there's only a few schools that can do that. You have, I think Penn State's one of them. Notre Dame's another type of spot. Some of the schools in the SEC. I mean, Oregon, they're like Stanford. There's certain typecasts, or when we talk about cultures, that you kind of weed out a lot of players that can fit anywhere. You know what I mean? Or guys that want to take a different level of talent management to the table. So it's interesting when you start getting into the roster management of how everybody in this new age is going to be able to build, because there's just more options, but there's also more pitfalls.
In this interview with Penn Live, Singleton was asked about what he's working on for this upcoming season. And he said, quote, "I feel like I can get better with everything. Running, obviously, making that one-man miss, the safety, blocking two, catching out of the backfield, being that whole complete back that I want to be." And it comes back to a lot of different factors that I think are going into this year. Running backs coach Stan Drayton, Jaywan Sider off to Notre Dame. So that was a major change. As someone who's been with the program a long time, has had a big effect on running backs, players at numerous positions, big recruiting presence, all those sorts of things. And then on top of that, you've got Katron Allen in the backfield with him. And it just feels like Nick and Katron have something really special they can accomplish this year. And it's like, yes, like, you know, a Big Ten championship, a college football playoff berth, a national championship, like these big goals are certainly ahead of them. But also it's like, you have two guys who could be 1 and 2 in terms of rushing totals in Penn State history by the time this is all said and done. And if you cap that off, you know, the individual record with potentially a national championship, the team accomplishment, these guys live forever in the history of Penn State football, doing something, the national title Penn State hasn't won in nearly 40 years. I mean, it's pretty incredible what's ahead of them. And I don't know if you or, you know, you've maybe experienced this in different capacities or seen this firsthand as an observer, but how difficult is it to balance the pressure of that? Because like history is at stake for the team and a lot of these individuals.
How do you balance the pressure of expectations?
Goals and expectations, I think.
I think that's a part of being a competitor, right? When we're talking about profiling that type of athlete that you want to bring into that situation, like it's a pressure cooker. So you have to, throughout the recruiting process, you're trying to weed out the people that do not want that pressure, whether it's through competition, whether it's how they respond after external validation or rewards and things of that nature. So you're trying to see those guys or find those personality traits that are looking to hit their maximum value or reach their height, right? Their full potential. And I think that is a personality trait that you have to find going through the process. Every team does. And I think that's the old adage of the seesaw of character and talent or nurture versus nature from that standpoint. And building a like-minded group of guys that with the right leader, I think is critical, especially in this day and age when there's so many different levers to pull, whether it's money, different social media type of hype and things that just players are chasing that can get confusing, even to college coaches that are recruiting players, right? Because you gotta maintain different relationships to get players as well. So it's a very dynamic space, and you just have to have an authentic, I say, talent acquisition funnel for what you're looking for.
The interesting thing about this, again, I mentioned, senior season for Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, a number of other key contributors to his Penn State football team. So Penn Live asked him about, how does it feel being in your final season at Penn State? And he said, it feels real, but at the same time, it went by so fast. I remember coming here my first year, just in the dorms, fixing my room and getting ready for practice the next day. But now it's senior year. Everybody's here. All the vets are back, but at the same time, we're just here to have fun, get better, and compete for a national championship. So does eventually come out right and say, we're here to compete for a national championship. But it is that interesting passage of time that patience has to be a factor. And you're always an interesting case study for me because you got so much flack for being in and out in 3 years, which was a goal that you expressed to the coaching staff, and you lived up to that. You got your degree. You're in and out in 3 years. You got a lot of flack for it publicly, unjustifiably so. But going from that first year where there's a lot of hype, a lot of expectations, very similar to a Nick Singleton coming in, and then that final year when you're wrapping it all up, and it's a lot of those, last time I do this, last time I do that. What's that emotional process like for a Penn State football player?
I mean, I think it's different for every player depending on where their career ending trajectory is, right? I think for myself, for guys that have a future plan or wanted to play on Sunday, you're trying to maximize your time at Penn State for what you need to prepare for the next level, right? That goes back into when we were speaking of the players and trying to win a national championship. Like that's a team goal, which is great. And a lot of players that are picking schools nowadays are trying to find a vehicle to become a professional. It gets a little different or dicey because you can get paid now in college, but that's also assessing the correct value of where your ceiling is as a player. So I think it's completely different for a player where that's going to be their last time suiting up their equipment to play football in their life versus a guy that's getting ready to go train in 2 weeks to get drafted and start a whole nother cycle of evaluations. Per se. So like you don't really have a time to relax if you're going to the next level. So I mean, it just depends on that career trajectory for the player, and it's tough regardless. I mean, especially it's just an ending of a phase, and you start to realize college sports is special, right? It's a very unique fan base that you're playing in front of. It's a unique time that you're coming up, and it's the probably last time that you're on a teammate on a team where your teammates are actually like close friends. Right. And I mean, that probably doesn't even exist so much even more now as you have the transfer portal. So that's why I think culture and coaching and teams that manifest and cultivate that are going to have success in this new day and age. But for players, it's an emotional thing because you go to battles and college life is unique to you and those 110 guys that you're with. And it's a special time that you need to cherish.
Later on this week, we're going to talk about what is in front of Penn State quarterback Drew Aller. One subject that I think is fascinating for many of these seniors is how much do you focus on yourself versus helping the other guys come up, the underclassmen, the guys that aren't in starting positions. I think there's a lot of exciting things to delve into, not just because of what is ahead of Penn State in 2025, but what is this team going to look like in 2026? A lot of that groundwork is being laid now in July and in August once training camp gets started. So we'll have that and more later on this week right here on State of State. Thank you all so much for joining us. This episode and our entire library of shows is available now on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please like, comment, subscribe, rate us, and turn on notifications. Follow us on social media at State of State Pod. Comment on our YouTube channel. And if you haven't done so already, you can become a member of our YouTube channel. For just 99 cents a month, you can get all upcoming episodes of State of State, plus our entire members-only playlist, ad-free, commercial-free. Hit the join button on our homepage or follow the link in the description of this podcast. State of State is presented by Bet Online and by Blue White Outfitters.